Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of The Fishing Teacher, and thanks a lot for joining us for today's video. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the mood and the personality of the fish, what that actually means, and really how you can use that to your advantage as far as getting a sort of an understanding about how you need to approach your day on the water. So that's going to be the topic of today's video. Real quick, guys, I just want to invite everybody out there, if you haven't considered so, one of the good ways you can support the content here on The Fishing Teacher is to become a channel member. And if you're interested in becoming a channel member, just go to the Fishing Teacher homepage and there'll be a little join button down there and you can click that for info, or you can go to the About section on the homepage too and just click memberships on there. So much appreciated with that. Okay guys, if you watch many of my videos on any of the channels I do, you hear me talk a lot. I refer a lot to mood and personality of fish because one of the things that you're going to find out about fish and bass in general is that they behave differently based upon conditions that change on a daily basis. And it's like literally how many times, if you guys are just starting out, you may not have seen as much, but once you've been fishing very long, you'll know that very seldom do fish do the same thing day after day. That's why you can go out one day and you may catch fish, and you go out the next day to the same areas and with the same techniques and you don't catch the fish. The mood and the personalities of the fish change, and they change based upon some environmental and weather factors and some unknowns. It's not like they just wake up in a bad mood or something one day. There are certain factors that really determine their level of aggressiveness, and that's sort of what we're talking about when we talk about mood and personality, is how aggressive the fish are and what type of lures that they are going to best bite on that day out there. For example, moods and personalities can be, sort of equated to lure categories. So say, for example, if you're fishing a spinnerbait or a topwater lure or chatterbait or something that you have to reel through the water at a fairly medium to fast rate of retrieve, usually the fish, the mood and the personality of the fish, they have to be a little bit more aggressive under those conditions, because the only time that they're going to chase after something like that requires them to expend more energy is if they're in a little bit more aggressive mood. And the aggressive moods for a fish are based upon optimum feeding conditions. And what a fish thinks is an optimum feeding condition, for the most part, is usually some type of a lower light level when it comes to a moving bait. So that's why traditionally your baits like your spinner baits and your crankbaits and those type of lures are better on cloudy days or early in the morning, when you have a little bit lower water levels. So that's sort of the aggressive mood and personality of the fish. And on the flip side of the coin, the times that the bass, the mood and the personality of the fish are passive and completely not aggressive, is under those conditions. A lot of times it's a direct opposite from the low light conditions. It's usually those days that are really bright out with no clouds in the sky whatsoever, maybe some light winds, and usually cleaner water. Those factors combined make the fish in a little bit less aggressive chasing mood, and therefore they're going to be usually hunkered down on the bottom more, and they're not going to expend a lot of energy to go after prey, because the prey have the ability to see better under those brighter light conditions. So the odds of a bass catching something that's moving fast is less on those bright days versus the low light days. That is why on those days that are bright and not much wind and clear water, you have the mood and the personality of the bass being more passive. You have to slow down and you have to fish smaller baits on the bottom. So that's when baits like a shaky head or a drop shot or a Ned rig will work good, something you can just barely crawl along the bottom like that. But that's two extremes. That's the aggressive fish for the low light and the passive fish for the bright conditions with not much wind. And then you have levels in between there, because as your light levels increase or decrease, and as your wind speed increases or decreases, and as your water clarity and water temperatures changes, all that is going to affect the mood and the personality of the fish on the lure categories that they're going to bite out there. Now, that sounds all great and easily explained and makes sense and everything, but one of the things you're going to find out, guys, is bass, they do crazy things sometimes, and they do things that don't make any sense whatsoever that you can't ever predict it. And sometimes I've seen the direct opposite. I've seen some fish not very often, this is very rare, but I've seen fish under the conditions that you would think they're not going to be aggressive, to be extremely aggressive, and vice versa. So ultimately, every single day is just a new day on the water, and you have to approach it that way. That's one of the reasons that fishing is one of the most difficult sports that you're ever going to undertake, is simply because you're dealing with an inanimate object, the fish, that does their own thing. They have their own agenda out there, and they don't read books or they don't watch videos and everything. They're going to do what they want to do. But ultimately, you have to have a place to start from some point, and that's sort of like, it gives you a foundation at least where to begin to start. So mainly, besides that, guys, keep an open mind, experiment, try different things if something's not working. And when you're talking about, or when you're thinking about what a bass is going to bite or what it's not going to bite, start referencing it in terms of their mood and their personality, which equates to aggression or passiveness. And that gives you a good clue to where to begin. So hope it helps out. We'll talk later.